Hi, Transformers. In this video, I am sharing highlights from when I was interviewed on the Hollywood Actor podcast. My hope is that you find some actor tips and inspiration that can help you in your acting career. Enjoy. I hope I'm a part of changing the dynamic, a small part, but a part of really educating actors in the business side of the business. Because at a certain level, once someone is talented and trained, then it really becomes about the business, whether they work or not.
This is Jamie Young, and you're listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast. Today's guest is Kari Nissena. Kari's an actress, producer, and an IMDb coach and business coach for actors. An award-winning actress, Kari has performed extensively on both stage and screen, with hundreds of credits to her name. As a sought-after industry expert, Kari teaches actors many of the skills they need to succeed in this digital era. Sign up for her free actor list at actortransformation.com and look out for her upcoming IMDb for Actors training. Now let's talk with Kari Nissena.
For those of you who are in smaller markets, I really believe you just got to find wherever the goodies are, wherever there is anything in your area, and take it and grab it as much as you can. And now online, we have so much that's available to us, like this podcast. There's so much that we can now learn just for free, just on our phone, on our computers. It's amazing.
I've heard directors talk about going to film school back in the day that's how they got access to that equipment. And so now there's not as much of a reason to go to film school because you have much better access to equipment, obviously. And you can get those experiences on the ground while you're making those commercials or short films.
Most of the time nowadays, it's much better to just jump in and learn on the job. And we all need training. I'm not saying not to train. I love the training that I've had, and I've had a ridiculous amount for my whole life. But there is something to be said for sometimes you just need to go and just do it. It's one of those things that sometimes you get out of a certain kinds of training, and a lot of actors are then floating around wondering, okay, now all that stuff that I learned, how do I actually turn it into a real career? And that's where the true challenge is, I believe, because there's no shortage of talent. Like, in Hollywood, come on. It's the best of every high school, every college, every community theater, comes out here. And they were the best of the best in their small town. But here, you got to find a way to get the work. And that's a way different thing to learn. It's a completely different skill set to treat your career like a job and a profession and a business than why we fell in love with acting in the first place. Why did we fall in love with it in the first place? Is because we got to do it on stage. We got to do it in class, and we got to feel all those emotions, and we got to do what we love. But then when we try to make it a profession, it becomes very much, okay, well, why don't I get that? Why don't I get to do more of that? Because then it becomes a different goal. It becomes a different goal to get to do that on a regular basis and to get paid to do it. So I find that fascinating. I find that one of the most interesting things about being an actor, the kind of difference in what it appears versus what it is.
Right. Well, here in Hollywood, we're playing at the Olympics of our industry. It's the cream of the crop. Come here and survive here. But what keeps us going, I think, is returning to that love, that initial spark, and trying to nurture that for ourselves. Because sometimes the business can affect us negatively. It helps us plug in to a certain degree. But if it homogenizes us, or if it attacks our personality and turns us into something we don't even want to be, and then suddenly we don't know why we're pursuing what we're pursuing.
That's so well said. So well said, because you can get amnesia. So you have to still do the things that are the reason why you love it.
Right.
You have to stay in a nurturing environment. You have to stay in class. You have to continue to act, even if it's only that 2 minutes in your audition today. You have to know that that's an opportunity and that's a chance to act. That's not a drudgery, right? That's
Exactly.
a privilege,
The privilege. But you gotta seek out those privileges. You gotta make them for yourself.
Yeah.
And it seems like you got that at a very early age, and then you started to specify that for yourself. Did you know that you did then want to go to a drama school, or you were looking for a typical university experience after you graduated high school?
No, I knew I was like a 35-year-old in a 5-year-old's body. I was one of those weird kids who was like already an old person, you know. So I knew at the age of 5, I was like, okay, so this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life, and this is what we're gonna do. And I would look for everything that was in a 100-mile radius, even though there wasn't a lot, I would grab onto anything I could get my hands on. And like even as a kid, I would order Backstage magazine and I'd have stacks and stacks. And I would just dream. I'd go and circle the auditions that I was right for. It was like, someday, okay, this is what I'm working toward. I always knew from the way that I am as a person that there was no reason for me to go. For me, I'm not saying for anybody else, but for me, there was no reason to go to a normal college to get a normal degree because there was never going to be anything else I was ever going to do. So for me, that would have been just a waste of time and money. So when I went on a New York trip with my performance group and I saw a conservatory that I really liked. And I'm like, okay, so that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to audition for that and they're going to accept me and I'll get in. And then I guess I'll move to New York. And that's how it happened. I just wanted to get as close as I could to the action of where the jobs were. That was the priority because there was no other option for me. It was like written, So
Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of the get something to fall back on. I know it's a controversial topic, and I know for a lot of people that might be the way to go. But at the same time, we're here for only a short time.
Yeah.
Where life is really, really short. So we might as well play full out for what we really want, as opposed to, I know a lot of my actor friends were forced to go to standard colleges by their parents, which it was all out of love, of course. They were scared for them, basically, as any loving parent should be about the career as an actor. And maybe it was right for their constitution and how they think about the world and everything. But sometimes it wasn't right for them. And they ended up being $100,000 in debt and lost 4 years,
Right.
for some people. So I really think it's on a case by case basis.
And our American society really perpetuates that, the need to go to a college to get a bachelor's degree to become successful. And our parents, when they did that or they wished they'd done that, it was a lot cheaper back then. It was a lot more of uh, a thing of pride,
Yeah.
something that really did unlock doors. And now it's just become such a mill. I think people really do have to assess why they are going to college, what they're trying to get out of that college experience.
Exactly. And what are they doing it for somebody else or are they doing it for themselves? Exactly what you said. What is the goal of doing it too?
Hmm.
What do you want to leave those couple years with?
And you already had those firm goals in place because you'd had so much of an eclectic experience within the performing arts.
Yeah.
And then you're getting backstage because you're looking at absolutely anything you can get your hands on. You're hearing about New York City for all those years leading up to you eventually making that big move to the city.
And keep in mind, for those of your listeners that are younger too, I also worked my tail off on survival jobs in the industry, even as a kid. Was at 13 years old waiting tables and managing a theater box office, and working behind the scenes, crewing stuff if that was the only job I could get. So whatever it takes to make that happen. I know a lot of actors really feel sad that they're not in LA, and you can have a career and not be in LA. There are other actors in the world, so it's not necessarily all or nothing. But I think that the determination and the work ethic has to be phenomenal. There's no room for lazy in an acting career. There's just no room. So however it manifests for individual actors, they got to be going after it and really knowing that Spielberg isn't going to walk in your living room. You have to go out and find him.
Yeah, there's no specific business track for what we do. We're very much the freelance contract that's brought in per gig. But brought in because people know us, brought in because we attended that audition, that callback, had the connections. There's a lot of things that have to line up in our specific line of work. And I think a lot of those things are not taught at conservatory. And that's, you know, we all have different ideas of what a conservatory training experience should be. And for my money, it sounds like you got a lot of that as you were even growing up. So
Yeah.
your conservatory in New York City.
Yeah. And I loved it because it was the first time. Well, actually, I did have survival jobs there too. But I love the idea of just being able to work on your craft all day long. To me, that was very exciting and nurturing and artistically and mentally compelling. And because I was serious about it too, I think that it was really the right match. And I love New York too. I
Yeah.
lived there a couple of years. I love that city. Just by being in the city, you're around pretty much like some of the most artistic minds and talented people on the planet.
Mm,
I would say actors do need to be taught in all acting schools way more about the business because, like we talked about, there's no shortage of talent. There's none. There's no
mm,
shortage at all of talented people. But most talented people are brought up to dream and think and feel and all that stuff. And we get to do a lot of that in training. But then it's like, oh, okay, so how do I make this so I can pay my bills? And how do I get across town in LA traffic? And how do I get the right audition that's going to get me the role and all that? That stuff really needs to be taught. I hope I'm a part of changing the dynamic, a small part, but a part of really educating actors in the business side of the business. Because at a certain level, once someone is talented and trained, then it really becomes about the business, is whether they work or not.
yeah. So you were starting to produce some of that content for yourself and then starting to think about how you could teach the people around you and become the coach that you are about
Yeah.
how the business was changing and how we could better and more efficiently plug our artists into the business.
Yeah, I do think that everybody should create their own stuff in one way or another. And I know that that scares a lot of people, but it's getting to be more obvious as every day goes on with things like influencers, YouTube, and things like that. Like you doing this podcast is brilliant because you're helping so many actors. So many actors. It's such good karma in the planet, right? And it's doing such a service where everybody can learn for free. Maybe they just hear one little thing that changes the way that they look at something like, oh man, okay, I don't have to be depressed when I don't book an audition.
Yes.
It's just a part of my job. It's no big deal. It's expected. Who cares? Move on with the
Yeah.
day. Once you start to hear more actors' stories and more coaches' stories and hear different perspectives on the business, it's like, oh man, okay, I can be an artist and have fun and learn and create and make
Mm,
stuff happen and go out and really truly make it happen. So I think, well, I know that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, I think every actor should create. Now, sometimes our brains shut down when we hear produce your own stuff because our brain goes to, I don't have the money. I don't understand how to do it. My brain doesn't work that way. I don't know how to get the equipment. It goes all to all the things that you might think are required, right?
mhm.
But creating on its simplest level could be being an influencer on Instagram and providing something of value to the world there. It could be doing your own web series with a bunch of friends. It could be having your own podcast, right, Jamie? You know,
Exactly.
it could be something to create good in the world. And don't underestimate the power of if someone isn't casting you the way that you want to be cast, go cast yourself. Done.
Mm.
Problem solved.
And it doesn't need to be a Hollywood film that you're making. It doesn't need to be that polished, that expensive. I
Right.
think people worry that they want their ideas to manifest themselves so completely that they say, well, there's an obstacle here, so I just can't make that idea happen. And it's like, no,
Yes.
you can't make that idea happen the way that you envision it right now. You have to take the obstacles, take the circumstances that you're under right now, and still make something. You got to
Make
just make
something.
something, and then the next time you make it better, and the next time you make it better. And it's no secret that on this podcast, I did just want to start. I wanted to. I hadn't done a podcast before, and it's every time I release a new episode, I'm trying to work on the different post production aspects to it. I'm trying to make it sound better. I'm trying to make it flow better. But you're always thinking about it. You're always trying to refine it and up the quality. You're trying to compete with yourself and with the people around you. But mostly yourself, honestly. You're trying to look at the obstacles that you have. How do I do that? How do I become a better person today than I was yesterday? Because you can't really compare yourself to everybody else. That's going down the rabbit hole, as we say in Hollywood. You're
Yeah.
just going to go nuts because you can't be the most beautiful person. You can't be the most talented person. You can't be the person with the most connections. It just doesn't happen.
Compare despair. There's
Mhm.
no good that comes from that. But something that's so important that you said is like you had to at some point just put it on the calendar. You had to say yes to yourself. You had to, even though you didn't know how to do it, you did it anyway in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And because of that, other people are benefiting from you saying yes to yourself. And that's the key to everything. When you are an actor, let's say you make your one person show because you know that you want to do 10 characters in one night or whatever,
Hmm.
then you are serving everybody that sees that show. If you're doing a short film, you're serving every audience member and every cast and crew member plus yourself. It's truly adding value in multiple ways.
Yes. You're stimulating that community for yourself. I always like thinking
Mhm.
of things in terms of the community. And that was a
Yeah.
big jumping off point for the Hollywood actor. Hardworking, funny, driven actors. And they'd say something, and then I'd talk to somebody else and they'd say something. And I'd be like, maybe there is something to that experience, those individual experiences. That's a larger truth. And if we understand that flow and understand where we are within that, we can push our artistry forward and be those healthy, successful actors that we truly are.
Love it.
And
You got to find what works for you. For me, it's working my ass off. For me, it's also creating, you know?
yeah,
For some people, it might be they're good at parties and networking. For some people, they go to a showcase or something and they stand out among the other 20 actors or whatever. For some reason, their look and their vibe stands out. So that might work for them where it doesn't work for the other 19 people? So we all have to find our path. And when you look at your resume, where did most of that work come from? Was it even an online submission? Thinking what has worked for you in the past is interesting. So let's see what else. I think everybody should be producing something, starring themselves. I think that now we're very lucky as actors that your whole studio can be on your cell phone. It's insane, the opportunity, but we have to be able to see it. When people complain about, oh, but I don't have any money, so go and learn everything you can on YouTube and Google and podcasts and everything. Do what you can with what you have right now, wherever you're at.
mhm,
Wherever you're at location wise, wherever you're at money wise, wherever you're at artistically speaking, there's endless things that you can do. Endless.
just got to do them.
You just got to do them. Yeah. Yeah. That's the trick.
And you've been doing them ever since you started learning those skills, those artisanal skills, and employing them in these in these projects you were creating for yourself, pretty much from the get go. It sounds like.
Yeah. And if you look at anybody's, like any really great career, we don't think of them as producers, but if you look at like the Brad Pitts or the Reese Witherspoons or anybody that has a really fine career, they're also producing. It's one of those things that you have to sit back and say, okay, if they're doing it and they don't have to,
Exactly.
you know, in
There's
theory.
got to be a real reason for that. And it's not just a financial one. They want to see these scripts come to life. They want
Yeah.
to bring these communities together, like Adam Sandler. We've had other people talking on the podcast about how, Quentin Tarantino, these different celebrity actors, celebrity directors, that they continue to want to work with their friends. These friends are they're the pinnacle of the art form, of the industry, but they work with them not just for the money, for the notoriety, but they work because they're part of this familial unit. And that's what I'm really trying to find here since I moved to Los Angeles. I'm trying to create that sense of community for us, because we're a lot of ships passing in the night, and there are little clashes here and there, but people drop out, people, relocate, or they're on shoots here and there. And having a podcast or these different ways to communicate with your fellow actor on a weekly basis, for me, is extremely healthy. It makes me feel like I'm part of something larger than just
Mhm.
an egotistical actor trying to seek fame and fortune, right?
It's so much bigger and it's international. Anybody can listen to your podcast. It's so cool. Absolutely.
Hopefully it gives power to people that are, getting into the performing arts anywhere in the world, and whether they do relocate to Hollywood or not. A lot of these skills, a lot of these truths are things that do cross over, are things that people can take and explore. If not, at least they know that there are people on the other side of the planet that are working to achieve their dreams.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
So when you were going from these different projects, that's some of which you were creating, what was that big turning point where you were like, wait, I, I've been learning how to start to plug into the business side, and I see that there's all these talented actors around me that aren't quite understanding how the industry is turning. I think I can help them as an acting coach and start developing a company for them.
Hmm. Yeah, it was a pretty gradual thing because I had worked for different casting directors. I had worked for different acting schools. But because of doing that and being around it and making stuff happen, people just started coming to me and asking for advice and mentorship. And so I actually did it for years and years without putting a title on it. I guess one of the big turning points was one time I decided, you know what? People need to know what I know. And I had a bunch of my industry friends come in and speak and do a panel.
Hmm.
And it was all based on the business. It was all based on marketing and things like that. And this was a long time ago now, but it was so good and so different. I gravitate towards people who are doing things differently and can look at life and business through a different lens. I think when we can not follow the masses, we're already ahead of the game,
Yeah.
right? Because most actors aren't able to pay their rent by acting. So if most actors are coming to LA or wherever and thinking that a career just means getting a headshot, getting an acting class, and getting an agent, well, that ain't going to cut it. That's like if Meryl Streep is a triple PhD, getting a headshot, getting an acting class, and getting an agent is like kindergarten. It's some tiny, tiny pieces of the puzzle. There's so much more.
Yeah, those are the easy things. Some people think making the big move to LA, that's easy. Going to a drama school, that's easy. It's all the little things on a daily basis, those little choices that we make all the time throughout our lives that really define who we are.
Yes. How do you structure an actor day if you're your own boss? That's what hardly anybody teaches you. That's what I teach people, but that's hard to get that information usually. It's like, okay, if I have a whole day, then what am I doing with those 24 hours? Am I
That's
just
precious
dabbling on?
time.
It's precious time, absolutely. And most people, if you really look at it, it comes down to I kind of wandered around. I did a little social media. Maybe I did a couple things on my to-do list. And at the end of the day, maybe they put in a half hour, an hour. If they had an acting class, 4 hours. But that's still part-time hobbyist work.
Yeah.
There's a big misconception that you put in part-time and are supposed to become rich and famous, right?
Yeah.
You do a
How
little
can
bit
that
of
be
work.
possible?
Yeah, because that's kind of a lie that we're told. When we talk about celebrities, how they broke in, it seems
Yeah.
like there's 3 seconds of, and they struggled to audition and didn't get cast, but then someone discovered them and now they're famous. Like it's always like 2 seconds to explain how they broke in.
Yeah.
It's like a wait, back up. Nobody talks about this. It's really a 30-year overnight success, is what it really is.
Exactly. And to us, they're skipping over the meat of the story.
Right. I get the struggle part and I get the success part, but what about the in between?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, oh, they showed up one day and then got booked on their series. It's like, yeah, that can happen. But usually what they don't tell you is, okay, they got 3 pilots before that successful pilot.
Mm.
And just to get in the room to be seen for a pilot usually takes tons of guest star and co-star roles and lots of experience, unless it's like a teenager show or, a pretty person show and you happen to be a pretty person or, something like that. But for the
Yeah.
majority of actors, it's usually a very long staircase to get to that point.
Yeah. But everybody loves hearing about those overnight sensations. They
Yes.
like manufacturing that idea.
Yeah, right? Because that's how Hollywood exists, I think, is
So silly.
that's why thousands of people get off the bus every day is because it seems like you just show up and you get an agent and then, yay, you book one and that's it. Problem solved.
Yeah. I want the good people to stick around. That's why I like talking to good actors that are gonna be here, that are all in, that are going to be
Yes.
successful, that are successful. Because that idea of success is totally different now. It's not being with a major studio and working picture after picture. It's not just being the lead in one peak TV series. It's
Yeah.
so many different projects, having so many different relationships, and for us to know that, yeah, this one thing might not have gone the way we wanted to, or this one thing was successful, but that was 3 years ago. It doesn't mean that you're not successful now. It doesn't mean that you're not on the right path
Yeah.
now.
That's so true. We got to stop being so hard on yourself for actors. And most people don't have the I have arrived moment. Some people do, but every successful person, every star that you know of still wants something else. They're still scared to death that they're going to lose it all. It's not like all of a sudden one day you live happily ever after. It's a process. And it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 step forwards, and it goes in waves too. And that's got to be okay. Just to be mentally healthy as an artist, you have to know that that's just a part of the job. It's no big deal.
Exactly. It has to be okay because that is the reality of who we are on a daily basis. Can you talk a little bit more about actor transformation, you as an actor coach, and how you work with clients and how clients reach out to you?
Yeah, I have a lot of different things going on. I plan to have many, many more videos on the Actor Transformation YouTube channel. But as a private client, it's very individualized. When I work with someone privately, I do screen everybody because there's only so much time in the day or the week or the month, right? So
Right.
it has to be a right match. But I specifically manifest wonderful actors into my coaching practice. And I put that out there that I only want awesome humans because life is too short. So I coach awesome humans that
Uh-huh.
are kind and proactive and are willing to work. That's it. I don't care if they're beginner or advanced. I have taught beginners all the way up to people that you would recognize that I don't mention their names.
Mm.
And then everything in between because everybody needs help. It's really fascinating. I have some clients that have been in the business for 40, 50 years that our industry was a different planet even 20 years ago,
Yeah.
you know? So when they come to me, they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how much I needed to do. Like even just on IMDb, I'm known as the IMDb coach. There's not an IMDb profile I've ever seen that I couldn't improve upon, even celebrities.
Mm.
So that's just a good example of people think it's one thing, but there's actually so much more. It's so exciting because there's so many great things to learn and to improve upon, you know? So when someone comes to me and they want help with their IMDb or their online presence, we discuss, first of all, I look at where they're at right now and see what's out there in cyberspace about them. But then we go and improve that. So one of the biggest things about the business now versus even 5 years ago is that everybody is looking you up online.
Hmm.
So it's now more important than ever, especially if you have like computerophobia. If that's not going to work for you, then you just need to delegate. You need to find a coach or you need to find help. It's just that simple. So many people are terrified of social media. or terrified of IMDb or just technology, right? So in that case, there are times you just have to step up and say, okay, so this ain't my thing. This ain't what I'm good at. I need to get help on it. And then sometimes it's a matter of, okay, I love to concentrate with my private clients on doing the stuff that only needs to be done once. Because that feels rewarding and exciting when you can check something off the list, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So there are some things that once you have a killer IMDb, then it's just a little bit of maintenance when you get a new picture or you get a new credit or you get a new piece of press or marketing or new skill or something, then we work on that. But for the most part, once it's done, you can pretty much breathe and move on to a different thing, which is very exciting to me. Even just their social media. Like if I go to your Facebook, let's say, they don't have their IMDb link on there, or it's not clickable, or it goes to the wrong place. It's sloppy work. So when casting directors might look them up, they might think, oh, well, they're not even an actor because they have no proof that they're an actor on their social media. There's no reason to think they would be an actor. And this is a mindset thing, but I think it's really important for actors to know if you don't like something, like let's say you don't like Facebook or you don't like YouTube or Instagram or whatever, it's still something that you can do the basics. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in just having help with getting all of your stuff properly set up the right way. And then you can even leave it alone. You want to have your header and your links and your website and your hashtags and all of that. Your name, for God's sake, your name needs to make sense. So when you're on a red carpet or when you're being interviewed, they can say, oh, great, Bob, where do we reach you? Where can our fans follow you? And they're like, oh, well, I'm Bob Smith at Instagram or whatever. I'm Bob Smith everywhere. So it's important to just have that stuff done. And then you can relax and go on to what you're really good at. It only takes a little bit of time to really get it done properly.
Mhm.
So that's part of what I do. Long-winded answer, but then I also do classes and I have some free goodies and everybody should be at actortransformation.com. Now I'm at a point where luckily I've designed my career so that people are coming to me as a coach. Now people are coming to me because I am the IMDb coach. That's a very specific niche that everybody needs help on, but also just the business presence. I am always looking for new ways to promote my actors, new red carpets to get them on. I help with press and marketing, always learning new things myself. What's so exciting is that we are like in the Wild West of the internet, right? Where there's new things popping up every day. So if you're not always learning something, then your career is stagnant, whether as a coach or an actor or a producer or whatever. There's always more to learn. Always. I learn all the time. I will pursue the answer. I know not everybody's in LA, but in LA, you could seriously be on a red carpet every day if you wanted to. You'd go crazy, of course, but you could do it. You could have a class every day, even a free class, because so many places will audit or have a free night. It's not like there's only 20
That's
classes
true.
in LA, there's
There's
thousands.
more classes than Starbucks.
Ooh, there you go. My God, there's thousands of teachers. Try to get a new technique. Try to learn. Try to be scared. In theory, you shouldn't be the best actor in your acting class. So you can grow, right? Imagine if you're the head honcho in every acting class that you take, but then you were allowed to go into an acting class that included Meryl Streep and Pacino and, all the greats. That's the kind of thing you want. You want to learn.
Yeah, exactly. You want to surround yourself with people that are better than you so they can bring you up, so you can be in that community that's pushing forward, that's being more proactive.
Yes.
That's kind of how because you do want to compare, but you can reflect that back at yourself and compare yourself to your previous self. That's how I like
Yes.
growing and how I like advancing my own career, as an artist or as a business person. How am I more effective today than yesterday? I can't always use it at peak performance because every week's slightly different for a working actor in Hollywood. Our weeks are kind of unbalanced, uneven. We're always trying to slot things in, things fall through. It's a mess. But as long as the next every week you're trying to balance it, and you're trying to balance it just a little better than you did the previous week, then you're always tending towards a healthier place.
So true. The balance thing is really quite an interesting challenge, isn't it? It's like, how do you really be proactive? I think you have to schedule life stuff, otherwise, it doesn't happen. You have to schedule everything, otherwise, it doesn't happen, you know? So if maybe Sunday is your day off and you really have a real day off, that's the trick, is like a mental day off, right? Most humans now wake up and the first thing they do is they look at their phone. And that's a horrible way to start a day because our inboxes are everybody else's agenda. If you study billionaires and super successful people, everybody will say that, like on every list, is that shouldn't be your first thing in the day. Your first thing should be taking care of your brain, your body, your health, drinking water, simple things. So you start the day off right and in the right mindset so you can get more done. That's a total other tangent, but everybody should be studying money, studying the mind, because really at the end of the day, everything in your career is about mindset. It may look like it's about IMDb, or it may look like it's about social media, or your audition, or your acting class, or your agent, but all of it comes down to mindset. And that's something that you have to actively pursue to get better and better and more healthy and to feel good about this whole adventure, this whole journey.
Thanks for listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast.
And thank you to Jamie for having me as a guest on the Hollywood Actor Podcast. If you want more inspiration and training, please subscribe and say hello in the comments below. And thanks for being a part of Actor Transformation.